Welcome back. This is part 2 of my amazing conversation with Ted Santos. In this one, we dive deeper into how to develop self-mastery. So, let's jump right into it.
Gentleman, 62 years old, by profession, he was a CPA, and he worked for years at the largest CPA firm in the country. And then he decided he wanted to make a career change. He went over to the mortgage industry, and he did okay. And then he hit a slump. And every day while he's in this slump, he is waiting because he's now an underperformer, and he's waiting. He knows that today when I go to work, they're probably going to fire me. So he's waiting to be fired, which if you're having, it's like, they say two pieces of matter can't occupy the same space. So if you're having this conversation saying, I can't do well and I'm going to be fired, and this other conversation is I need to perform, they conflict, right? So you end up with underperformance. So I worked with this guy, and he was telling me that he could get meetings with people he called heavy hitters. And these heavy hitters were often investors. And he would get the meeting, they sit down at the table, and my client, this guy, was a master at breaking the ice. You walk in the room, he shakes your hand like no one dislikes him. He breaks the ice, he cracks a joke, and the whole room is laughing. They're all feeling good. Everyone drops their guard. They're ready to do business. And he makes another icebreaker joke, and it's, wow, this guy is, he's really great. And they talk a little business, and then he cracks another joke, and they talk a little business. He cracks another joke, and he then at some point cracks too many jokes, and the heavy hitters leave the room saying, love to have a beer with you, love to hang out, but they're not doing business with him. So now he's an underperformer. So what did we distinguish? We distinguished something he didn't know he didn't know. Even though he was aware of it, he didn't know how it impacted sitting in front of heavy hitters or anyone else. So when he was 13, he's in a car with older guys, and these guys are like between 16 and 18. And one of these guys says, "What's this little kid doing with us?" And now he's doesn't belong. He failed to be worthy to be with these older guys. He's out of his league. So he cracks a joke, and they all laugh, and they put their arm around him and says, "You're really cool. Yeah, now I know why you belong. You do belong with us." So this became his superpower. It's so when you put him in a situation where he failed to be good enough to be in that environment, his winning strategy was to crack a joke. So now he's 62 years old, and he doesn't have a distinction for when I'm in a situation that's uncomfortable, I just go to that. That's my winning strategy to make things, to alleviate the discomfort of not belonging. And so then he has no way to close a deal. He only has that one gear. He's a smart guy. He's got a CPA. He's been accomplished. He just made a career change. So by me working with him and now having the distinction in unlearning that, right? Dismantling, unlearning it, and then having a choice. Do I want to be the 13-year-old in the car, or do I want to be the guy who closes the deal? So we also had to work on sales strategies and the questions to better understand your prospects so that you can serve them, so you can close and understand what their needs are and close it. So we had to do more than one thing. The third thing is, and this is going to be tough for some people, you want to get rid of the identity completely. Because the identity is tied to all these things. It's tied to when you were 3 It's tied to when you something happened at 5, at 11 or 13, at 16. And all of these and if you can get the identity as just this network of conversations that in his case, being a funny guy had a benefit. So we didn't want to throw it away. When he meets with people, you still want to be able to be the icebreaker and people are comfortable, but now you have a strategy for moving things forward. So it's not a new identity you create. You get rid of identity completely and you now become the guy who's committed to an outcome. You stand for something. So if I stand for, you look at the founding fathers of this country, we stand for freedom, liberty, we stand for independence from Great Britain. Okay, once that's accomplished, we can now stand for freedom and liberty, right? So your stand is fulfilled and your stand serves as something that's a platform where people can join you. So so when I said I the disruptive leadership model is a paradigm, is to intentionally create breakthroughs, intentionally shift paradigms, there's a language that supports it. So if you say, I have to get over my ego or I let my ego do the work, that's the paradigm that we were given with the identity we were given. If you say, well, this guy is just making jokes because he's unconscious, now he's powerless. His ego, his unconscious, all of this is running his life. When he has distinctions, there goes that conversation I had at 13, and it's about to come up. Okay, I have a choice. I still want to be an icebreaker. Bang. I did that because that's part of my commitment in getting people comfortable with me to do business. Now I have another commitment, which is to understand their needs. And I have a strategy for getting that. This is not tied to an identity. It's now tied. The power I have over my life is what I say, not what I've been given in the past. Because my power is in what I say, I can invent a new possibility from nothing. And that's how you get people who create flying machines. That's how you get Nikola Teslas of the world who talk about wireless cell phones in the 1800s. That's how you get free electricity from Tesla. That's how you get all these things that never existed because some guy powerfully spoke them into existence, and what he said shaped his actions. So my client, instead of his actions being shaped by being in the back seat of that car, his actions are now shaped by I'm committed to this. So you're going to be shaped by a conversation anyway. It's not your brain making you afraid to be with these older guys. It's it's what you think it means. You said earlier, we put meaning on things. And some things we want to avoid, and other things we want to go towards. And sometimes the things that are it seems like it's a superpower, it could ends up sabotaging us. In the case of the guy who was 62 in the mortgage industry.
Hmm. It's interesting because a lot of what your client experienced, I experienced myself in a with different things around
Of course.
identity.
Right.
And I think, yes, we develop survival behaviors because our
Yes,
brain's
exactly.
trying to keep us safe. Is okay. I needed to. If we, I guess, I had a friend who grew up in an environment whose dad was kind of abusive, not abusive in terms of he would get mad all the time and he would yell and he would spank. So this person grew up in an environment, in that kind of environment. So he became very attuned with other people's emotions, reading the room, understanding that okay, that if I say this, people can do that, and always trying to protect other people's emotions because that was a safety for that person. So in case of your client with cracking jokes, is if I feel that I don't belong, and we as a species, we are social species, we need to belong in order to quote unquote make it and survive, because that's how our brain from an evolutionary standpoint sees it, then I'm going to develop the tools necessary for that. Now, for me, it was me being more attentive of observing, because again, I couldn't relate to people, so I needed to understand how they thought, how they behave. But that eventually, even though that was a good thing that I developed, because now I understand I understand people, I understand patterns and behaviors, and I can connect the dots. What created also at the same time was, well, I forgot I even had a voice, because I never shared my ideas, my opinions, because I didn't want to get rejected. I didn't want to be judged. And what you said about identity, that you need to get rid of it, one thing people don't understand, and I had to I've learned, not the hard way, but the painful way, is when you move from one identity to another, or when you're outgrowing your own identity, you grieve that identity. It's painful, emotionally painful, because that identity kept you safe for so long that leaving that identity behind feels like, well, but
Death.
that is
It
just
died.
that, bingo, exactly. So I necessarily haven't killed mine, but what I've done is, I'm now, this new identity is taking the wheel, and I'm using the wisdom that my old identity acquire, like in your client's case, that, hey, I still can crack jokes, but now you're not going to run the show. This new identity, the closer, is going to run the show, and I'm
Nope.
going to use,
No, no
no.
one, no new identity. Absolutely not. So there's a French proverb that says the more things change, the more they stay the same. So you can't be different without carrying that which you're different from. So you're just see, when I talk about paradigm shifts, going from horse to plane is not a different horse. It's a paradigm shift. It's a breakthrough in transportation. If you what we are given is to take the paradigm and make it better, to improve it. And so if you look at our identity as being analogous to a paradigm, we improve our identity, we make it better. I'm
Okay.
not saying identity is wrong. I'm saying that identity comes with built-in presuppositions and limits. And some of those limits you don't see as limits. You just see as reality. And that's the way it is. So when you say to let go of your identity is painful, I haven't seen any proof for that anywhere aside from someone saying it's painful. And if people never said it was painful, no one would ever believe it's painful.
Hmm.
People
Well,
say change is difficult. Change is not difficult, but someone said it is. People bought into it, and now it is the identity of the human being that change is hard.
see, the reason why I mentioned that identity, or leaving identity behind, was painful, no, it's not because that I heard it anywhere. At least I don't remember hearing any, but I remember being this person not long ago. I'm talking about within a year and a half, that I realized, okay, this person that I am today now, it's not serving me anymore. But I was so emotionally attached to that version of me, even though I knew that it wasn't serving me anymore. I guess there was a level, the attachment came from understanding and knowing how that version of me, or that identity, helped me made it in life, or helped me be where I am today, and understand that I don't have to be this person anymore. Now I need to put myself out there. Now I need to speak up. I need to be more, being comfortable, or being willing to be seen again and to be heard again.
Right.
Before, all these stories, all these conversations were created in my mind, that part created the pain. That part created, like, no, we want to stay like this, because that's how we survive. And
Okay.
that's, to me, that's where the whole pain concept came from.
So help me understand. If are you what I hear you saying is if you create a new conversation, it's going to be painful.
I wasn't aware. No, I've created new conversations, but there are some that were very rooted. Like for me, not speaking up, for me being
Where
isolated.
was it rooted? Like, was it in the dirt, or was it rooted in your feet? Like, where?
Probably rooted in my subconscious mind, because
Well,
that's
where's your subconscious mind?
in the body, I would say, because
Where?
that's,
I mean, when
well,
the doctors cut the body open, do they just pull it out and say, "So can you get an operation to remove the subconscious?" I mean, if it
no.
exists, then how do you know it exists?
Well, it only exists in my mind, which is a, well, it's again conversation. True, and that's it's
So
like it's
So why don't we just say we have conversations? Why do we make up all these categories that make it turn us into victims? That subconscious ego, all these things are doing something to us, and to let them go, it's painful. Like, all of these are conversations. They're created just like the 4-year-old girl who wanted to wash dishes.
well, I think because we don't have the language, and people, not only the language, but we don't have the knowledge
Good,
to,
good, good.
yeah.
So now, when I said, that's why I set this conversation up and said, when you do paradigm shifts, you need a language for that. So if you use the old language, all you're going to do is have the existing paradigm, plus or minus. You're going to improve it, or it's going to devolve. Something's going to happen, right? But if you create an entirely new language for a paradigm shift, and then you can create an entirely new paradigm for something else, and has its own. Just like we had horses, there was a paradigm for cars, and then there was a new paradigm in language for airplanes, and then there's a new paradigm for rockets. So you can invent entirely new paradigms, and you don't have to bring the paradigm of the horse with you.
And how
What
do you
what
do
we're
that?
Well, I thought that's what we were doing. We were saying that you invent new conversations, right?
Yes.
So maybe I'll give it to you as an analogy. Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah, I love analogies. Yes.
Okay. So this is how my work looks. You and I are walking down a beach, beautiful beach in Venezuela, and we come to a sign, and it says it in 3 languages: English, Spanish, and Portuguese. The next 100 meters, this is a minefield, and it's filled with bombs, and we have to get to the other side. What are you going to do when you read that sign?
Freak out, probably one. You would, I'll be trying to find a solution
So
that
what are
is
you going to do? You have to get to the other side. How are you going to get there? Because once you
swimming,
step on one, that's it. It's not going to blow your leg off. You're dead. It's
and
over.
yeah. Most likely thinking now, I'll probably, once I get there or close to it, I'll just start swimming and go around the
Yeah, the
whole.
sharks are waiting for you out there. They're just swimming. You see the fins. They're waiting for you.
Huh. Um. Guess, I don't know if there's anything on the street
Nope,
on the other side.
nothing,
No, nothing.
nothing, nothing. Just minds, nothing.
What if I throw a rock to the mine, all explode, and I'm behind, and then I can walk through?
No, no, that's a good strategy. You just make sure the rock is big enough. So how far can you throw a really big rock that's going to have that impact?
True.
Because then
Huh.
if you're not far enough, you're gonna blow up, and they got you. You might not die if you can throw far, right? But you probably won't get to the other
Make.
side. Yeah, and I don't know how many times you can do that.
Mm, I well, I could. Is a sign real?
Yep. So go across, and you and I. So I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, go ahead. I'll watch. Damn, you didn't
No,
make it.
I was going to do the other process, like Ted. Just walk around and just and let me know. No, I mean you got me there. I'm trying to think a little bit outside the box, or and I can think of anything at this particular moment.
Good. So I'm gonna say, don't worry, Daniel. I got it. I have thousands of hours in training for distinguishing minds in the ground. It's very subtle. Took me a while to be able to see it. But there's a slight perturbance in the land, and you can see it. Because if they bury the mine too far, you step on it and then nothing will happen. So they have to bury it in such a way, even though it's covered, I can see it. And I see three, right? So I'm trained not only to distinguish the mines in the minefield, I can dismantle them. I can reverse engineer, dismantle, uh, and use just follow my footsteps, and we'll get to the other side. Are you going to follow me?
Yeah, I have no other choice but yeah, to
No,
trust
you
you.
could. You can just go back and just say, hey, forget it.
Which I think, and I love that you mentioned that you could go back, because I think that's what most people do when they're at the very edge of expansion, at the very edge of becoming this improved version of themselves, or they're going to have this breakthrough. It's a
Right.
moment that impacts the most fear,
They get
and it's like
derailed.
it can derail. And I've experienced that. When we have this expression in Spanish, is called all that swimming just to die at the shore. And yeah, and I heard that a million times from my parents, a million times. But it is true because we're so close. And even though I can trust Ted, but if my fear is way too much, you know what, Ted, you go ahead. I understand you have thousands of hours and you know what you're doing, but that's too much for me. I like to stay in my safety there, and
But
that's what.
we have to get to the other side. We
Yes.
have to. I mean,
Hmm.
you can quit, but we have to get to the other side.
You just have to trust.
So
And
are you following me or not?
uh yes, if I feel that okay, that's where I want, and that's, I guess, to me, where even we never touch this topic here, but where alignment will come into play. Is that aligned with what I want? Is that real?
You have to get to the other side.
Yes.
You
If
have to. I'm letting you know you have to get to the other side.
I'm the one who has to and who wants to, yeah, I'll definitely trust you and follow that path.
Good. I'll dismantle it. Bang. There's one. Let me get these other two. Bang. Okay. Come. All right. And I'm going to get the others. Let's go. And we'll go to the other side. That's what I do. You see, the guy who was in the mortgage industry had a mine in his mind. And when he was in an environment, if he thought he didn't belong, it blew up. And he just kept making jokes because that's how he survived. And he literally would blow up the deal because he's being triggered by this thing that happened when he was 13. Now, he's aware that that happened at 13, except he has no distinctions for how it's impacting him. So awareness wasn't enough. So you and I get to the minefield. We are aware it's a minefield, but that has no impact on us getting to the other side. I have distinctions from mines in the ground. So when I do work with clients, I have distinctions from minds in their mind. Just like the woman who was 4 years old and wanted to wash the dishes. I knew what questions to ask to help her reverse engineer, unlearn, and dismantle the mind of the conversation she made up at 4 years old. The guy who was the CPA made up a conversation. The way I survive when I don't belong is to be a funny guy. Otherwise, I fail. So to avoid the failure, and he for a few seconds, when someone said why this kid is here, he failed. So to avoid that failure, he had to make a joke, and he overcame. So it became his weapon. And this happens a lot for people. Like, I shouldn't say a lot. There are times when this happens in our life. In those events, it's not that we process the thoughts. That guy in the car, it took seconds. Usain Bolt, it took less time than Usain Bolt runs the 100 meter in 9.58 seconds. took less time. It's not processing. That's how long it takes for you to put your identity together. And then you spend your life looking for proof that I have to make jokes to survive with certain people. And for the woman, she knew she couldn't work. So she could create scenarios, situations in her life where not working was the right thing and she could fit in. She's very attractive. So I'm pretty and I don't have to work. I have something else to contribute. I'm beautiful. So there are things that happen. I can give you story after story of or case where was the blind spot that would derail the person. So when you start saying, and you said it good, like the identity gets up to that sign and says, I'm close. Getting to the other side means I get to be someone I didn't know how to be. And I'm allowed, then I can accomplish things that my identity wouldn't even consider, or my identity would sabotage. And not that it's purposely, the identity is saying, hey, remember, when we were 13, I saved you from getting kicked out of the car. So you trust me. I'm going to help you. And the times that the jokes don't work, it's not us, it's them. We're good at this, man. And the identity will just stay with you and it will shape all your actions, everything you think, your meaning. So, and this is the wrong way to say it, but if you take your identity out back, shoot it in the head and leave it to die, then you get to create someone that has nothing to do with your identity. And I'm not, I said it the wrong way, but it's really a matter of, maybe the closest thing is the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. It's like you have to get to this space of nothing, a no identity, a no nothing, and then invent yourself from nothingness to be whatever you get to. You get to see the power of, this is who I'm committed to being. So if you're a world-class athlete, if you're a high performer, if we look at athletes, high-performing athletes, that's what's driving them. They are committed to, just take Usain Bolt. I am committed to breaking the record in the 100 and 200. So it's not an identity, because identity is really interested in survival, like you said. And the way identity survives is to look good and avoid looking bad. That's its two gears. Am I going to look good doing this? Let's do it. Am I going to look bad? Let's not do it. So if you want to innovate and you do things that's never been done, you're going to look bad because it fails at first. And the identity says, hey, let's stay away from that. Okay. But so Usain Bolt says, I'm committed to breaking a record. There were days that he trained so hard that he would have looked really bad because he was vomiting at the end or during practice. That doesn't feel good. So people want to do, you hear people say, I want to do my passions because it feels good. Vomiting doesn't feel good. It's not a good feeling at all. But his commitment was not about feeling good. His commitment was to what he said. And who I am in the world is a world-class record holder. And that shapes my training. It's not the identity. I don't care about looking good. I'm not trying to avoid looking bad. I am committed to breaking that record. And that's it. All of my actions are shaped by that.
Which is also an identity.
No.
I'm the person who commits to go ahead and break the world record.
Now, see, this is the challenge of paradigm shifts. We try to bring what we know into a new paradigm and we try to understand the new paradigm from the old one. And that's what you just did.
Okay.
You're sticking with that. See, the identity doesn't want to go. Hey, man, we know how this works already. So technically, we're talking about growing new neural pathways for a whole new possibility of being in the world, of inventing a new paradigm, of being your word, not an identity. Because see, we already established your identity is made up of things that you had nothing to do with.
In the past,
No,
but
no,
how
but
about
that's what an identity is. It's something that's given to you from the day you're born, maybe from the time you're in the womb. Whatever it means to be funny, to be a rebel, all of these things existed. Now you are inventing yourself. You're creating, not reinventing. You are inventing it from your speaking, from your language. You create a language for being. It's not what you do. You don't do world class. You be that, and that shapes your actions.
hmm, that's interesting because I guess I never saw it that way. The way that I would see it is, sure, when we started this conversation, it was about how our identity was assigned to us, our names, are the way that we behave, the way that we carry ourselves, our religion, all of that, personality to some extent. But then, to me, the way that I saw it is, okay, if I want to become, let's say, a thought leader or a keynote or a mindset coach or reality architect or a elite athlete, for me, and this is just maybe working with the old paradigm, maybe, I don't know, is okay, how can I bring my nervous system with me and face the least resistance possible? What if I identify that I'm the kind of person who goes after that, who commits to become a an elite speaker or an elite coach or an elite athlete? Now every action that I take goes along with how I see myself, which goes against with the belief, the identity, and the conversations I have in my head. Therefore, my nervous system is going to say, oh, this is what we do. I don't have to create fear. I don't have to create anxiety. I don't have to create uncertainty. I don't have to create overwhelm because this is just what we do. So that's how I saw it
Mm.
to some extent, I think. Yes.
What does your nervous system have to do with who you're being in the world?
In my mind, or at least what I've experienced, is that if I do something new, which goes against the familiar, that goes against with who I have been. I can give you an example. As I said, I used to stutter a lot. I couldn't fit in with people. It was hard for me to create conversations because I was always at a much deeper level conversation. I just couldn't connect with people. For many, many years, I thought that, hey, I'm shy, introverted, quiet, socially anxious. All, grab any kind of adjective and behavior and personality and put it all. That was me. When I start trying to put myself out there and I started to say, wait, maybe there is another way. Anytime that I was to a networking event or to a social event, my nervous system was just freaking out because it was tied up to, hey, this is not what we do. We are introverted. We're socially anxious. We're quiet. We're shy. That's not exactly that's not who we are. But when I committed to, no, I can connect with people. I can have conversations. I can just try to be myself and people. Some people might not like me. That's fine. Some people will be glad, or it would I would find like-minded people. And the moment I start transitioning to that space, my nervous system calmed down more, and now I can go to several events and trying to have conversation with people in a much easier way. The podcast helped me a lot because the podcast gave me a lot of confidence that, oh, I can truly have conversation with people that I haven't met before, and I can talk for hours, and it's enjoyable for both of us. But I had to make a commitment with myself with the story or having the conversation. No, we're going to try this and we're going to commit to become better at it. So that's where I brought my nervous system, because in the past I would be in fight or flight, and I would just freeze the entire
Yeah,
time.
based on what you said, it has nothing to do with your nervous system.
the fight or flight response comes from the nervous system, to my understanding. The
But
fear.
okay, how does your nervous system know what to do?
Is based on all stories, I guess.
No, but
It's trying
how
to
does your
predict.
nervous system know what to do?
I have no idea. That
So then why are you living your life based on what your nervous system wants?
well, because what I've come to realize is that things have been easier for me. I've faced less resistance from my body in terms of overwhelm, in terms of fear, in terms of anxiety, when I create, I develop a story, or maybe I try to
Oh, right there, right
mhm,
there. When you do what?
develop a story or create a
And
story.
how do you develop a story?
In this case, now I'm intentionally
No, but how do
creating
you or anyone else
by
create a
thought,
story? Huh?
by thought alone, by just thinking about it.
Right. And and how do you how do you develop thoughts?
I haven't gotten that far. I don't
Okay.
know.
Right, right. Wait, you develop thoughts by using words, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you choose a certain word sequence of words, right?
Hmm.
And you can choose a sequence of words that says I can't do this, or you can uh, choose a sequence of words of I'll try to do it, or you can choose a sequence of words that says I'll be in the best of the world at this.
Yes.
Can you see how those three conversations create three different outcomes?
Yes.
Can you see how your nervous system would respond differently to each of those conversations, three different conversations?
Yes.
So why are you depending on your nervous system instead of the conversations you invent and create?
Well, because I guess I did it backwards. Backwards in a sense that to me, okay, I instead of thinking, oh, I can control my nervous system with words, is this is how my nervous system feels. How can I bring my nervous system along, or how can I neutralize or regulate or calm my nervous system down when I get to do this? What do I need to do? And that's when I come up with, oh, I need to change a story. I need to create this new narrative. I need to start telling myself, or I need to start using a language that empowers me and allows me to feel more relaxed. But it all started by me becoming aware of my nervous system, and then I came with the words. And it seems like you did it the other way.
Well, I want to get to the source of it. The source of it is conversation.
Yes.
That's the source. So why not go with the source? The nervous system, the brain isn't even the source of it. Otherwise, that woman at 27 would be able to walk because she already walked for years. She ran, she played sports, but she can't walk. She doesn't have a neural pathway that possesses the conversation to instruct her brain and her body what to do. Her nervous system doesn't know what to do because there's a severed tie. So the source that she's going to have, she literally has to invent how to walk now. She has zero walking. Zero. It's not like she walks bad. She can't walk. She has to invent it. She has to invent a conversation that tells her brain and the rest of her body what to do. She has to invent it just like an infant. She's not saying nervous system figure out what to do. She is telling every nerve in her body, muscle, blood cell, everything what to do. She's creating that.
No, I understand the logic, and I guess I probably
That's not
didn't.
logic.
No, no, I understand.
That's what's happening.
True. What I mean is, it's a logic like, okay, if you do A, you get B results. I mean, if you take this path, this will happen, and
Okay.
that's why I use the word logic. So I mean, I understand how by doing so, by having the language, by 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 telling your brain what you want to happen, eventually your brain will start creating those neural pathways, informing your muscles, hey,
Right.
this is what we want to do. And I understand that. I guess the way that I probably didn't express myself well, or didn't explain myself well, is that it's not that I ask my nervous system anything. Is okay, if this is how I'm feeling, and I hate feeling this way, I don't like feeling this way because it paralyzes me, it freezes me, it makes me want to run and just escape the social situation.
Right.
Then what can I do to make it better? Because I understood that my blockage wasn't that I wasn't incapable of doing. It wasn't that I was lazy. It wasn't that I didn't have the skills. It's that my body prevented me to from doing something based on an old story that I carry, and I had to retrain my body to understand that this new situation is safe. And you do it through I guess words, as you said,
Conversation.
and
Right.
stories. Yes,
Right.
but I got to that conclusion by understanding what a lot of people feel is that, okay, if I feel pain, if I feel overwhelmed, if I feel fear, if I feel sadness, or I feel any of these negative emotions, that means that I'm not capable of, or I'm stuck, or I'm lazy, or the reason why I procrastinate is because of this, or maybe I don't want to work because I don't know, I'm just lazy. That's what probably that lady might think, when in reality it's just based, it's not that she's lazy, it's just her body says, or her nervous system, like, hey, we don't do this because
It's
we
not
don't
her.
have
It's
any.
not her nervous system saying that.
No, but her feeling, what she feels, is not that. The only way that we believe something is when we feel it. We can
Nope.
think,
You
how so?
can't have a. You can't have a feeling until your brain tells your body what to secrete. See, there are if it secretes dopamine, cortisol, oxytocin, endorphins, your brain is just doesn't just randomly secrete these. It needs an instruction, and it's correlated with what you say to yourself. Before that, it's not doing it. Otherwise, it would just be randomly secreting all day long and you'd be like out of control. You have to
True.
you have to say certain the thing so the guy in the car would get into a situation and say to himself, I don't belong here. Here we go again. It goes something like here we go again. But he doesn't even know he's saying that. So this is the mind and the minefield. It's the mind. It's an event that happens and it steps on that conversation and it blows up.
Well, exactly. But again, as you said, is when the lady was 4 years old, or when your clients was 13,
13.
the
Right.
the chemical produced came from the situation, and the person didn't know that that was created.
No,
So
it came from
every
the conversation and the meaning about the situation.
yes, but it's not that.
That's the source of it.
But
If
it's
you
not
never deal with the source, then you'll, like you said, you'll go in backwards and you won't
true.
ever get to the source. So here's a great question. The day you were
Mhm.
born, were you stuttering?
No, in fact, I started stuttering late. I mean, like when I was 8. I wasn't even at 4 or 5. I don't know what happened to me. I just started stuttering for
What
whatever reason.
so that this is really important. Okay. And I'm that could take a lot of work and it probably wouldn't be appropriate for your show. Okay.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
but I'm asserting that there was a moment in time that was very much like the guy who in the back of the car at 13. It was a moment. So there's a series of questions I would have in which I would have to engage you to open that up because that's why I asked, were you born stuttering? And I it's a foolish question. I know the answer is no, but you and I both know the answer is no. but it started at some point, and it started on a moment. Like, it wasn't a course of a day, it wasn't over the course of a week. It happened in a time, a moment, a second. And so, however the world looked, right? So, there's another woman I know. One day she said, "Ted, why do I always have to be right?" I said, "Well, when you were probably about 5 years old, you gave the wrong answer." And she became animated. She said, "Oh, I remember. I was 5 years old. I was in a dentist's office in the waiting area with my mom, and there were other children in there with their mother. And the dentist came out and said, 'Hi, children. Who knows what this is?' And she said, 'Oh, I know.' And she said what it is, and he said, 'Nope.' And just like that, she doesn't even know what happened after. All she could think was, I was stupid, I was embarrassing, and I'll never let that happen again." So for her, any moment that looked like she could be wrong, she fights like an alley cat. She fights. Now, what do you think her profession became?
Lawyer, most likely.
Exactly. A criminal lawyer in the courtroom fighting like an alley cat. She's the lawyer you wanted because she was going to fight to the death for you. What the way she led her company, the way she dealt with people in her intimate relationship was this: she couldn't turn it off. She because and she didn't know this, it was the mine in the minefield. She never wanted to be embarrassed like that again. So anytime I could give the wrong answer, this time I'm going to fight. Now, if you put her in a domain of things like finance that she just knows nothing about, she's a master at law. Well, you put her in finance and she knows she can't be right, she might try for a hot second. But once she sees she's out of her league in that, she's not going to fight to be right like an alley cat. She's going to fake that I don't feel good. She actually started, and this is a 45-year-old woman, she started acting like a 5-year-old. And she would say, I don't feel good. Oh, my stomach hurts. I'm hungry. But it's to avoid looking embarrassing. So she had two gears to deal with that situation. One is to fight. And if I think I know what I'm talking about, even if I'm not sure, if I think what I'm saying is right, I'm going to fight. If I know I can't competing this, I don't feel good, I'm 5 years old all over again. And that's all because of a moment in time. It's not that her nervous system did that. She said, I look embarrassing and I'm never going to let this happen again.
No, I mean, I see it. I see it. And again, it just, her reaction of not wanting to be wrong, her reaction of acting like that. I guess her behaving like a 5-year-old kid is
Mhm.
basically her nervous system just being, or her inner child's like, no, I need to defend myself, or I need to come up with a reason so I'm not wrong. Yeah, it just,
It's
if
just
I've,
identity
mhm,
protecting itself, right?
yeah.
So I protected you. Okay, look, you failed us. Okay, she's Latina. You failed us, chica, when we were 5. So I know how to resolve this, and I'm going to fight. And even if it means I sabotage my intimate relationship, I'm going to fight because fighting to be right is more important than having this love relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love this. And by the way, Ted, we've been talking for almost 2 hours, which is
I know,
probably the
I know.
longest. And no, by the way, fascinating. I could honestly, I have to bring you back because I have so many different questions. And to me, it's like it just is the work that you do. That is also the work that I haven't, to some extent, I've been doing with friends without even noticing I've been doing with friends,
Good.
because to me it's always identifying that unconscious beliefs, bring it to the conscious mind and trying to figure it. To me, people are puzzles. So always and every time that I get to have these conversations, I'm fascinated with. And it's sad because I rarely can have this level of depth
Okay.
conversations with almost anybody, because it requires a lot of a higher level of self-awareness, of knowledge, of understanding of how everything works. So yes, completely fascinated. But if I could ask you one last question for those who are listening, is let's say that somebody feels stuck, or they hit a plateau, if they feel that they're doing everything right, what would be one powerful question that they can ask themselves to begin that process of disruption?
Is this true? So if we take what you and I are talking about, is my nervous system doing this to me? See, the question is, do you want to live a life where everything is doing it to you? My ego is doing it, my subconscious, my nervous system, my brain. So my life is not even mine. So
Mm,
how do I know this is true, a fact? Even though it's what you've been told. So you know who Copernicus is, right?
mhm.
So during his time, they said the earth is the center of the universe. And that's just the way it is. And he said, well, let's look at this. I've done some calculations, and actually, the sun is the center, and all the planets are going around it, including the earth. Heresy. The church executed him for that. But he questioned, and if you went to Oxford or Cambridge back then, the fact of life was the earth was the center of the universe. So there are so many things that we know are facts of life, and you don't question it. And when someone like me questions it, I sound ridiculous
Either
because
that,
everyone already knows the facts. Sorry, either that or what?
no, either that or people feel attacked because you are challenging their reality.
Well, their whole identity. They've built an
That's
entire
true.
so you look at back then, right? So the whole identity of an astronomer was the facts of life. The earth is the center of the universe. And so you said it so brilliantly. Who wants to feel like their identity died? It's like you died and you have to mourn. But is that even a fact of life?
I guess you not necessarily, if you can control the story that happens in your brain, that would change your brain biochemistry, and the hormones that are being released might not create that feeling of sadness, that feeling of grief, that feeling of fear. Even it would be according to the story that you're creating around a specific event in your life.
So, who is responsible for the conversations you have with yourself or that you call thoughts? Who's responsible for that?
I am
Well, I thought your ego was responsible for that.
a potato.
No,
um,
no,
okay.
but you get it. You get so you are 100% responsible for what you think. Like even if someone puts a gun to your head, they have nothing to do with what you think. Nothing.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot because and I've come to believe in the last few years that we have, as you said, a lot more power than we think, a lot more control over our life than what we think, and a lot more agency over our life than we
Right.
think. We just need to accept that we have the power, that we have the control, that we have that agency. Because now, once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And once you see it, now
Right.
it's on you. If you don't accomplish, if you don't live the life you want, you cannot blame anybody else but yourself. And that's what a lot of people are going to avoid, because the ego gets in the way, their identity gets in the way. As you said, we don't want to look bad. And if we know that we cannot blame anybody else, then we look back bad to ourselves. And that's not good for our ego or
Well,
identities.
let's just say we set up human beings to be victims and we set them up to not be all they could be. I know that's a commercial for the military. Be in an army or navy, be all you can be. But um, because You said if you are 100% responsible for what you say to yourself, what you think, what the thoughts you have, then you can create it. And I don't mean like a pipe dream, but once you say, it's not me, it's my unconscious doing it, you now just gave your power away to an unconscious. When you say it's my ego, you just gave all the power that you had is diluted. And you're now the victim of, you're waiting for your ego to do the right thing or your unconscious to reveal it. You can create it and invent it. You have the right to question what is given as the facts of life.
Yes, which I have done. I see. I don't feel like a victim. I'm not feeling like, okay, I cannot do this if or when. I'm sorry. When I feel and face resistance from
Okay?
my body, like we all face on
has
the
has
level of
nothing
fear.
has nothing to do with your body. It's only
Well,
what you say. Your body's going to do exactly what you tell it to do, and
true.
nothing. And I can't tell you or your body what to think. You tell your brain what to do, and your brain says, um, "Do this." And if that and if the neural pathways to tell your body what to do is severed, you now won't have that reaction because your brain lost its ability to tell the body to do that, like walking.
True. No, and I 100% agree with you. And I say that when I face the resistance, is already in my mind an automatic system
Yes,
that was created years and years and years
yes,
ago.
yes.
And now I'm like, okay, when I'm facing it, instead of overreacting, instead of having the knee-jerk reaction, I get curious. Why am I feeling this way? What exactly? And I'm trying to uncover at
What,
least the original story.
what am I
And
saying to myself?
exactly,
What am I saying?
why do I feel fear when I'm approaching a new group of people? Or why do I feel, and then I start and then layer after layer after layer after layer, which it is uncomfortable for a lot of people because you have to be very real and honest with yourself, and you cannot lie to yourself because then you're never going to get to the answer. And once I find the story, it's okay. Here's the story. Doesn't matter why it was created. Doesn't matter what was happening there. It's like, how can I start dissolving it and implementing a new one that is more empowering? And once I do that, now I don't face or I don't feel that resistance from my body when doing something new
Well,
or when doing that thing.
and you also have a power of choice. So this is the old conversation, and this is the new one. Do I want to stay with the old one? Because, like you said a few minutes ago,
Yeah.
now I know about it. Before you didn't know about it, and it just ran your life. But once it's like distinguishing the mind and your own mind. I know the mind, what it is and what it's made of. And I can reverse engineer, I can unlearn that and then create a new one. So I have a choice. And most people don't have a choice. This is just the way I am, is what you hear people say. And
Mm-hmm.
they say it is what it is. And nothing is what it is, but we live like it is what it is. I have an ego and it is what it is. I have this feeling and it is what it is. And there's nothing I can do about it. And people will tell you, you can't tell me how I feel. I don't have to, but I know your brain won't do it until you tell your brain what biochemical to secrete. And that feeling is correlated with that. And on a flip side, and this may sound controversial, um, you may say, I feel good, but you will only feel good when certain things happen. And that's being powerless also. So you can't feel good because you said so. You feel good because a certain event, and actually that event reminds you of something when you were 5 and it was a great memory. So whenever anything reminds you of it, you feel good. But the capacity to feel good because you said so right now in the moment is not there for you.
Hmm. I mean, I understand that. And when it comes to no, I do. But to me, it's like okay. But would I rather have negative emotions or positive emotions? And even I wouldn't. I would probably use it to my advantage. If I can produce that chemicals of positive emotions, can I connect dots of doing something that is kind of unpleasant and connect it to a positive emotion and create a way that maybe I don't need so much willpower to do something, but less because now my body is acting in alignment with something or whatever is I think that what I try to do is to hack my brain many times using language, but also it's okay, if this is a positive emotion and if I get a good feeling about this, but I don't like to do this, or it's not as pleasant to do this. How can I merge those two? How can I find a connection? So now I don't have to force myself or to have enough willpower to do something that is kind of unpleasant that I have to do because of work or sure, I can use the language I get to do, which is more empowering that I have to do. I understand that. But I I would try to find anything that would make my life easier, even if, as you said, it could be powerless, because an event that feels positive or feels good reminds you or is a reflection to something that you experienced decades
Exactly.
ago.
Exactly. So what I'm talking about is self-mastery. So if you have self-mastery at a level where you've distinguished all the minds in your mind, and if someone gets near it and you think you're like, "Oh wow, that's about to go off," or if you dismantled it and it doesn't even, it's like, wow, a year ago, 5 years ago, this really, but it now has zero impact. I don't even it's like I almost have no memory of that, how it used to be. That's mastering self. And so when you have the source of it, you now have the tools to dismantle those minds. You're not hacking your brain. You're not doing any of that. You're not depending on nervous system. You have a level of mastery where you're not even triggered. You've dismantled them.
Awesome. Ted, where can people work with you, find you? And I don't know if you're still coaching or you're just selling books now.
So sure, I still coach people, and I even coach people to be coaches. So you can reach me. You can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Ted Santos, or you can find me on my website, which is turnaroundip.com. And IP is like intellectual property. And I would offer to any of your listeners, you can find my phone number online, or even email me from either LinkedIn or website. I'd give you free 30 minutes of an evaluation of a conversation to see if there's some way I can support you. If there's some area of your life where you'd like to have a breakthrough, it doesn't matter if it's personal or your professional life. And I've written a book, Here's Why You Can't Find Love, where I took this whole, I call technology, and I transferred it to love relationships. So what works in your personal life will actually work in your professional life, because what triggers you in your personal life will trigger you at work. But we're just taught professional etiquette in the workplace, and there's no real professional etiquette in an intimate relationship. People just do whatever they want to do there. So uh, it's all about self mastery. My work.
Awesome. Thank you. Seriously, I could just go for way longer because again, this fascinates me, and I like how you challenge a lot of the things, a lot of my thoughts, a lot of my ideas, and yeah, it's again, I really this was a very rich conversation, and
Thank you.
I knew it was going to be good. I wasn't expecting it to be this good and this rich.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And if you ever do want me to come back to talk about
Definitely.
anything, the book or any, like we spoke before we went live, is blindfold me, drop me out of a helicopter, and start the conversation, and I'll engage you.
Yeah, definitely. Because again, when I was crafting the interview or the questions for this interview, I had like 20 questions. Like, okay, I'm probably not gonna ask even half of them. I end up asking like 4 or 5 from that list. Every other question came from the conversation. But yes,
Perfect. And
for
great
sure.
job on your part. I
Thank you.
enjoyed this. Thank you.